If I don't trust the government when they tell me other different things, why am I trusting them when they say like, oh, this food is perfectly healthy? And when I discovered that the food pyramid that I had grown up with, a sham, fake, made up, that different industries were paying to have bigger slices of this pyramid, everything I knew was turned upside down.
Heal Squad, we are in for an exciting episode today. We are joined by the bold and brilliant Alex Clark. She is the host of Culture Apothecary, a health and wellness podcast that's all about finding remedies for today's sick culture. Alex went from being named the Chicken Nugget Princess to hosting the first ever daily pop culture show for conservatives called Poplitics, which sparked the cute-servative movement. But COVID changed everything, opening her eyes to the dangers of Big Pharma, Big Food, and beyond. In today's conversation, we're going to dive into Alex's journey from the Chicken Nugget Princess to helping women take back control of their health, and why she believes birth control could be one of the worst things to happen to women. She's also fresh off that Senate roundtable I mentioned discussing America's Health and Nutrition, where she's pushing for real change. This is going to be a good one. So Alex, I'm so glad to have you in studio today.
Thank you very much for having me. It worked out. I happened to be in LA doing a podcast swap, and you asked to come on, and it was perfect because I'm not out here often.
Yeah.
One of my hottest takes is that it's too cold in Southern California. I think I was ruined by Scottsdale.
Wait, is Scottsdale? Oh, because it's desert. It's
because it's
hotter,
so hot. It's still 110, 115.
You like that?
I love it.
Really?
Yeah. So for me, like, this is freezing. Like, I'm like, this is winter where we're at right now. Like, I am so cold, but I know you guys think this is beautiful, the most perfect weather in America. I don't know, Maria.
Okay. Yeah. I'm officially kind of changing. This is way too hot for me still now.
Oh my gosh.
I was just on the East Coast and I'm like, oh my God, it felt so nice. And I never thought in my lifetime I would say that, having grown up in Boston, the coldest ass place. I was like, no, I'm living in LA forever, but LA is kind of getting crazy. So I think it's probably time.
Yeah, it is. I don't know how you guys do it. I admire you guys for holding out.
I mean, it's not easy. I think, you know, you kind of like, at least for me, I keep wanting to think things are going to get better because I love our home. I love where we live. And, you know, even though I could say goodbye in general and be okay and just pop back and say hi to friends here and there, you know, it's hard to figure out what new home would be. Like, where would you go? I've investigated. I keep searching. I keep going to places. I keep looking. And sometimes I feel like it's hard to run away, like thinking that anything's going to be that much different, because the truth is we're all one. We're all connected. We're all the same. When I go overseas, I'm like, are you guys having the same problems? And they really are. I mean, it's hard to not be confronted with all the things that you're not loving. But I think Connecticut's going to be okay for us. We have a house there we've had for a long time. I think that's going to be a nice oasis to escape the madness. Just saw that they're creating a new mask mandate in California starting November 1st.
Oh, you got to be kidding me.
I was like, wait, what? This is a joke, right? I think it must be like an early April Fool's prank.
4 years later?
I don't understand. But I'm really excited and grateful for all of you who were part of that roundtable that are being brave. It's funny, you were like, you're brave having me on. I'm like, why? I don't even know why. Like, I don't get it. I was so moved by all of you standing up for the rest of us, for our health. I think that's why I do this show every day. I think that health is the most important thing, and we need to be valuing it as much or more than our careers. And we're trained and taught the complete opposite. We're trained and taught to succeed and make money and get good grades and go to great schools and all this stuff. And then we're like, health, only when it derails do we start to pay attention. So my goal is like, how can we get people ahead of the curve? How can we start learning and thinking about it and making changes? And so, you know, whether it was you or Vani Hari or Jillian Michaels, Callie Means, who's also going to come on the show, for me, it was really important. I was like, get everybody a part of this, because the Heal Squad needs to hear the things that we're not hearing, needs to really understand how we're being, you know, treated differently than even like European countries. When, you know, Vani was here, she was talking about The difference in the Kellogg cereals. Why would they give us the shit and give everybody else the pure good stuff? I don't understand why that's even okay.
Yeah, and it's very frustrating because they are literally making this other formula, this other cereal that they're shipping out to every other country in the United States. So in the US, they're making this batch of poison for our kids, and they're making this cereal that doesn't have all of the same poison for everyone else's kids. Why can't we get the same thing? I mean, and that's the whole premise of the panel was that, I mean, Americans in general, of course, deserve better, but especially American kids deserve better. Yeah. And it's funny, you talk about like, I'm so glad you went on that panel, and that was brave of you to do that. I almost didn't. I tried to get out of it.
Why?
Because I felt like I was for sure I was the odd one out. Like I was the least credentialed person. I'm not an expert in any way, shape, or form. So Callie Means texted me because we're friends. He's been on my show, and he was like, hey, would you consider coming on this Senate roundtable? We're going to testify at the Senate. And I said, no. I said, absolutely not, Callie. I'm not doing that. And I was like, he's like, oh, we're going to have all these Harvard doctors and Stanford doctors and all this. And I said, no. I felt like, this is what I said to him. I said, I don't have any expertise. I said, I just have a podcast. I just talk to my audience. I just ask questions on behalf of my audience. He said, exactly. That's why I want you to be on this. And I said, I don't understand. And he was like, Alex, you have this audience of, my demographic is millennial women 25 to 35 on average, who really, really care about health, who are raising kids for the first time, and they're starting their families, and they're finding it incredibly difficult to raise healthy kids. And so he said, all I want you to do is go out there and just give this impassioned speech on behalf of them and say what they want to say, like be their voice and just say, basically talk like you're reading the DMs that you get every single day on Instagram.
Are
and
you
so
a mom?
I did. No, I'm not. Okay. And so this is what was so interesting is that I was like, okay, so I need to channel the most mama bear energy possible in my Senate hearing speech that I know I hear from my audience. And also all of my best friends are married with kids now at this point. All my best friends have at least 3 kids. And so I'm watching them raise kids and seeing, the difficulties and the struggles that they have in just trying to get better ingredients and also access information when it comes to health, children's health, whether that is the vaccine schedule and the truth about different vaccines and ingredients in those, or if it is about the food. And they're finding it hard to just even figure out, where do I even go for this info, because it's being so banned or buried on the internet. You can't find it anywhere. And so I just was like, okay, I'm just going to go like balls to the wall on behalf of them. And so that's what I did. And it ended up, people really liked it, I guess, which was touching. But oh my gosh, Maria, I was freaking out. I was so nervous. That is so out of my wheelhouse, but I'm really glad I did it.
Yeah, but it is in your wheelhouse. And he knew that. You just, a lot of us have that kind of, that version of imposter syndrome where we feel like we don't belong because we're not doctors or whatever. But the truth is, we still have a voice, and we still have the people's voice. And it's just as important, I think. It's funny, like I asked you if you're a mom only because now being a new mom, I have a 15-month-old. I told Kevin, it's so hard to keep my mouth shut now. Because also I've been a journalist my whole career. So I have trained myself to be so fair that like I won't even allow myself to know what party I'm a part of, what I am just, that's it. I am fair. And it's getting so hard.
No, and that's the thing
because it changes when you're a mom and you have to protect somebody.
Yeah, you have to protect somebody. And so that's the question I think a lot of people right now, I mean, we're in an election season. That's the question everybody is asking is like, okay, these are different values that I hold, whether that's crime in my city or, the food that my kids are being served at school. These topics are completely nonpartisan. And
they should be, but they're not.
They should be.
Yeah.
But then you're going to the polls and you're like, okay, well, which campaign is willing to talk about these issues? Which campaign is making a promise to do something about, these issues? And so you're making that decision personally. And I think a lot of people, it's so unique in 2024. I think this year especially,
it's gotten the worst.
a lot.
Like, we used to do you remember other campaigns where it's like, I would have a beer with that person. And you're like, wait, why are we talking about that?
No.
When you're hiring the CEO of Nike, you're not like, oh, I want to hire the guy who I could have a beer with or the girl I could have a beer with. No, you are hiring someone who's supposed to be amazing at the job. Why are we looking at our candidates based on, oh, well, I want, to see the first female president, or I want to see the first, or whatever it is. It shouldn't be about that.
No.
But anyway.
Who's going to get the job done? And so the thing is that I think 2024, this election is so unique. I mean, none of us, me included. So I just rebranded my entire podcast. I know that I'm openly conservative, that I'm in the health and wellness space. And I literally said to my team, because we knew that this rebrand was happening in September, right before the election. And I said, guys, I just want to give you a heads up. We're a couple months out from the election. This really might be buried. Nobody may care about health and wellness right now. And then literally a week later, RFK endorses Trump. And I was like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, this is a God thing. Like, it was so cool because now these topics are at the forefront of political conversation in a way that they've never been throughout history, ever in American history. Yeah. And so this is so exciting because, just like with RFK and Trump, RFK did not like Trump. Cheryl, his wife, does not like Trump. I mean, that was a big thing, is that he never wanted to partner with him. He was like, this is going to ruin my marriage. But he did because
that's interesting.
Yes, it's very juicy. So because he really cares about these issues, and this is somebody you can tell when you have a cause that you really care about, and you have somebody on the other supposed team, the alleged bad guy, who is saying, I'm willing to work with you on this. The question is, are you willing to put down your picket sign and link arms for the cause?
And for the greater good.
For the greater good. Yeah. And RFK Jr. was willing to do that. And oh my gosh, they are trying to ruin his life. And so that tells me this man really does deeply, truly care about this, because he's risking everything. I mean, very similar to Trump. I mean, obviously I'm biased. I'm conservative. I like Trump. But with him too, it's like, these are two men who they have tons of money. They have amazing families. They could retire into the sunset and play golf, or play with ladybugs in the yard, or whatever RFK does. He's got his crows that he hangs out with. I mean, they don't have to do this. They don't have to just be maligned in the media every day. People, shooting at their heads on live television. You don't have to do that, but they choose to. And so to me, as a voter, I'm sitting here thinking like, okay, I feel like that says something, that they're willing to put themselves in harm's way and their families, etc. But that being said, voters are really in this interesting place, because this is the health stuff. This is for everybody. America is the Titanic. We are a sinking ship. And nobody who's needing, which we all need a life vest right now, nobody is saying like, well, hold on a minute, who did you vote for? I don't know if I can accept a life jacket from you. Like, look, you're either drowning or you're accepting the life jacket. So what's it going to be?
Interesting point.
And so you just have to accept it no matter who's taking it. I've been telling moms, American moms, I'm like, you don't have to like Trump to vote for him. Hold your nose and get it done, especially for RFK, who already, by the way, has been working on a transition team on the health stuff with over 5,000 people. And these are nonpartisan. Some are Democrats, some are Republicans. It's a mixed bag. It's not all conservative Republicans RFK is going to be working with in this administration for the health stuff. So I think that's interesting and, an important point to make.
With that, I'm going to take a quick break and share with everybody our amazing friends who keep the lights on here. And thank you guys in advance for not fast forwarding, because we really need you to listen to this, because that's the only way we get credit for it. But also it's really good information. So if your home is in need of a little fall magic, Macy's has you covered, guys. Their lowest prices of the season event is here to help you cozy up your space without breaking the bank, whether you're hunting for seasonal decor, which I'm super excited about, to bring that autumn vibe, or some ultra cozy pillows that are going to make snuggling irresistible this winter. This is your moment to refresh your home. The sale's going to run from October 18th to the 27th, so don't miss these deals. Check out Macy's.com or pop into your local store to snag the best finds. Also, if you need some inspo, you can always check out my link of my favorite picks inside the podcast description. Happy decorating. Also, there's nothing like a good hair day, guys. I'm sporting yesterday's hair look. But our friends at Way have the perfect products to help you have the hair you've always dreamed of. Now is a perfect time to invest in your hair and discover what can make you feel even more confident and more beautiful. Whether you're looking to enhance your natural beauty or try something new, Way is my go-to. Head over to theway.com. That's THEOUAI.com. Use the code HEALSQUAD. Get 15% off your order. I like to think it's a good idea to get some holiday gifts going with that 15%, but you guys make your choices, of course. Okay, back to it. So I think you know, you've had a really interesting kind of journey. I was mentioning that you were the chicken nugget princess. And I think that that is really relatable to everybody. I mean, listen, we're really shouting from the rooftops now about health. We're really starting to saturate that market and get people to start opening up their eyes to the different things that are out there that we're just kind of not paying attention to. Like, chicken nuggets aren't good for us, guys.
Unless they're homemade.
Yeah, processed foods are not good for us. And now I think we're just starting to wrap our heads around it. But you went from the chicken nugget princess to kind of where you're at today, really, you know, pushing for all these kind of changes in the health food industry or the big pharma industry, all of it. Tell everybody a little bit about that kind of journey.
I cannot even express to you, Maria, how bad my diet was. In high school, I was going through the lunch line. I would get 6 or 7 Rice Krispie treats and a fruit punch, and that was my lunch. I was worse than the standard American diet. Ate like this my entire life. Very picky eater. Loved junk food, and was put on birth control at 15. Stayed on that for 10 years for no reason, which is very common for a lot of millennials.
No reason because you weren't sexually active, or
right? Like I don't even know why I was put on it. Like it was a regular wellness checkup, and just, oh, do your periods hurt sometimes? Yeah. Oh, well, you know, you could, birth control will help. Okay. I have no idea what I'm doing at 15.
You're listening to a doctor.
Yeah, that was how quick the conversation was. I mean, we're talking about that happened within the span of a 10-minute wellness checkup where she's checking my temperature, my ears, and my weight, and whatever's going on. I mean, there was no conversation truly about the risks, the side effects, you know, that your rates for anxiety, depression can go up 80%. None of that was told to me.
Try a hot compress, nothing.
Yeah, nothing. So I was just put on birth control for who knows why, and didn't know any better, because every wellness checkup thereafter throughout the course of my life, early 20s, it was just like, okay, and you're on birth control, great. There was no question of like, should you be on this? Is it really necessary? Nothing.
And it was normalized.
It was
Everyone
very
was
normal
on it. So it's like taking any over-the-counter drug is normalized.
Yep. And so something had occurred to me, and this is before my major health radicalization, a few years before that. I did think like, why am I taking this? And I just stopped cold turkey and never thought about it again. I didn't know at that time anything really about the dangers of birth control, which we can get into. But what ended up happening for me, where the big transition came, was during the pandemic. Dope Sick on Hulu came out. And I'm watching this about the opioid crisis. I really didn't know anything about the opioid crisis. I didn't know anything about food and pharma. So this is all really new. This is the thing. Like, I am now testifying at the Senate. This tells you like God opens a door and then just your whole life changes. Because I was eating this horrible ultra processed food way, and then am watching this show and learning about the opioid crisis, how we got here, and it was government 3-letter agencies telling us that something was safe, non-addictive, that it would have no side effects, and that we should take it. And I just thought, man, that's interesting. I wonder if we have a history of this ever happening before, because while the show is out, you know, obviously we're being told that in order to participate in society, you have to inject a certain something into your body. And I thought that's a little weird.
Yeah, you can't go to school unless you're vaccinated.
Right. I mean, and so that's something that just, to me, I mean, right, like, isn't that something that the left is always talking about, is like, you know, bodily autonomy and making choices? So I just thought like, man, that's super weird to me. And so when I started watching the show, and then I started Googling these things about pharma and big pharma, I'd never really heard that term. And so I'm reading about it and I'm like, wow, this is interesting. I wonder if there's anything else where, you know, a large portion of the American public was duped on something. And that led me to hormonal birth control. Just everything going on with that. And I thought, oh my gosh, I was like, I wonder if there's anything else I don't know, and stumbled upon Big Food, and my life was just changed. It was like I finally saw the light. I understood everything. I understood for the first time it wasn't normal to not have a bowel movement for like 2 weeks, I understood
that was happening to you.
Oh yeah, like I never pooped.
2 weeks.
I thought it was funny. Like I would tell people like I don't poop. And that I had no idea it was a red flag. It'd be like a week and a half. Yeah, it would be very normal for me to go like a long time without pooping.
And you didn't have pain?
No pain. It was just, I just didn't.
Oh my God.
And so I didn't know that wasn't normal. And then I'm like looking at all this, I'm like, oh my gosh, the food I'm eating is so horrible.
Yeah. There's
like,
no real nutrients, minerals, fibers, nothing.
Yeah. Like you need to be going every day like clockwork, like all of these types of things. I had no idea that. I was like, man, my joints hurt all the time. I'm unbelievably tired. That's not normal to be so tired in your late 20s. Yeah. All of these things, it was dawning on me that like food has the opportunity to hurt or heal, and that really is the ultimate tool. It's the ultimate medicine beyond prescription drugs. And so I just started reading and listening to every single thing I could. I was getting all of these books. I was reading Vani Hari's book. I was getting all these books on like Monsanto and learning about glyphosate for the first time and GMOs. And I just thought, man, as a conservative, it's been easy for me since I was a kid, because I've been conservative my whole life, grew up in a very conservative family. It's been easy for me to understand corruption and all these different facets. I know that tech is corrupt. I know that they censor us on social media. I understand mainstream media leans largely left. I understood that, the education system, that the people controlling the curriculums in public education, they have a certain viewpoint that they're kind of imposing on kids. And I mean, some people listening may be like, I'm okay with that. That's fine. I'm not. But as a conservative, the point is that I understood all these different ways, and how, for me, I don't trust the government. But the two things that I never connected were food and pharma information, and how, if I don't trust the government when they tell me other different things, why am I trusting them when they say like, oh, this food is perfectly healthy? And when I discovered that the food pyramid that I had grown up with as a 90s kid, as a millennial, I was born in 93. So the food pyramid that I learned, when I learned that entire thing was a sham, fake, made up, that different industries were paying to have bigger slices of this pyramid, everything I knew was turned upside down. And I was like, of course, duh. Why was I trusting them on all this information when I know to ask questions when it comes to everything else?
Yeah, that's the thing. I think I'm in my phase of like question everything. Now that I have a baby, I'm like, no, question everything, because, the organizations that are there meant to protect us are making all of their budgets off of creating more vaccines and creting.
Yeah, it's weird, right? It's weird that the people giving the information are allowed to take companies from, the people that are giving us the information on what is safe or not safe are allowed to take money from these different, food or pharma companies. That seems a little corrupt. Yeah. That seems a little rigged to me. Yeah. So I didn't like that.
Charities too, by the way. I mean, I forget what documentary I saw on the food industry where they were outing massive charities that I don't want to mention.
Well, let's talk about the American Heart Association. Let's talk about the American Diabetes Association. Why are they accepting money from Coca-Cola? In what world does that make sense? Now, you don't have to be anything. This is not political. Where does that make sense? Why is one of the biggest funders of the American Heart Association canola oil, seed oils, which we know cause heart disease? So these are the types of things when conservatives historically have asked the American people to just take personal responsibility, right? Because we're all like, you need to make decisions on your own and all of this. And that's historically what I've always thought too. So I just thought all the health stuff and all these liberals that are talking about like raw milk and organic and all this, I was like, that's ridiculous. That's how I grew up. Conservatives did not care about any of this, okay? Now, I see it as you can't ask people to take personal responsibility when the information is all rigged. How can they? They don't know how to make an informed decision. So that's the point of what needs to change.
Well, and by the way, when you're being told by the people you're supposed to respect, whether it's those organizations or doctors, that you're safe doing this stuff and that everyone else is crazy, then how are you going to not trust the people you've been told to trust? And that's when I'm always like, this is a really bad example, guys, but I'm like, priests do really bad things too.
That's true.
Right? So it's like, we can't, no one is above the law. Like everybody.
Yeah. Somebody said this to me, one of my guests, I wish I could remember who it was, but they were talking about how like, you know, I said, well, how do you know? Like, it's so confusing. Like some of these studies, it's very obvious, like saying that Lucky Charms are healthier than ground beef. That's insane. Like, and so he was like, okay,
Nobody
exactly.
said that. Did they really?
Oh, you know, that's a real thing. And see,
great.
the problem is that these studies are used to control public policy on food. So it's those types of studies that like we think is crazy. And it's like, oh, who would believe that? But then they're using those studies, which are funded by, you know, people like Kellogg's or whoever, General Mills, to then say like, oh, this is why we need to have, you know, this type of food in our school lunches. It's a total catastrophe. But yeah, I feel like sometimes you see those studies and it's obvious, like that one where it's like, how can we trust that? Sometimes it's a little more complicated than that, but you feel a feeling where inside you're like, something doesn't seem right. That doesn't make sense to me, like this
but
data.
The average
and so
person doesn't have time. I was actually seeing a clip of Joe Rogan, and I think he said something similar. It was like, the average person does not have time to read those research papers, to even look into this. They don't even have time to start deep diving.
So let me tell you a secret.
All they have time is to listen to their doctor, because they're like, you're supposed to tell me the truth, and you're supposed to take a Hippocratic oath.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to like be the honorable one.
So this guest of mine.
And by the way, I'm not saying that doctors are bad. I'm just saying that they are also trained, and their training is underwritten by the pharmaceutical companies that are training them in a very specific way. And there's kickbacks that people then have to wrestle with the rationalization of, I got to pay my college tuition bills. How am I going to pay my debts if I don't take these kickbacks? Oh, this is nebulous. This is birth control. It's safe for them. The research all says it's safe. Okay, then I'll sell that, or I'll give them this, I'll give them that, and I'll be making money behind the scenes. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, you know, the advice that I was given was, if it doesn't feel right to you, if you and I'm not a parent, but they're saying, if you as a parent, or your doctor is giving you this advice about your child and you're like, but I know there's something wrong with my child, or whatever, let's use common sense instead of relying only on what's on the paper. I think that our gut can tell us a lot more, and that instinct is there for a reason. But to your point, yeah, the kickbacks and things, that's one of the scariest aspects. And you saying like, well, people are like, I don't have time to read these papers. So the scary thing is that it's not just like a regular American parent that doesn't have time to read all this research. It's also your congressman. It's your congresswoman. So the problem is when people like Kelly Means are going to the Hill and they're talking to them about these different bills that are coming, where they're asking for like crazy funding for Ozempic for children, for example, and they're asking them about it. They're like, well, I don't know, you know, so-and-so said this was fine. So-and-so lobbyist said that this was safe. And I just trust them because like, I don't know, I don't have any food background. I'm in military, you know, it's something like that.
And I trust a lobbyist who's being paid by Ozempic to come and say this is safe.
And
that's
so,
the thing. We need so much reform.
We need so much reform. And let me tell you, so for that reason, the number one, because people see things like, you know, the food babe and me and Jillian Michaels testifying at the Senate, and they're like, well, that's amazing. Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, what can I do to get involved? The number one, and they told us the same thing, because we got to like mix and mingle with them before the hearing.
Who's they?
People in Congress, senators, basically anyone in DC was invited to like do a little, it was like a breakfast cocktail, you know, soiree or whatever, to like talk to us personally or ask questions and things. All of them said, you know, it's very confusing. We don't know where to get the info and stuff. But the number one thing that we listen to is when our phones are ringing off the hook, and American citizens in our districts are calling us, or in our states are calling us and saying like, hey, I really, really care about this food and pharma issue. Please do something about this. They listen. So that is
because they want to be reelected.
Well, right. Exactly. So use that to our advantage. Call them and ask them, what is your food policy? I want it listed on your website. You know, what do you think about this bill and this bill? Like, this really matters to me. You know, food freedom is important to me. I want to be able in my state to buy raw milk from my local farmer. You know, what is your stance on that? If you are calling them and asking those questions, if enough of us do it, they're going to be like, okay, I guess this is important. Now I'm going to start focusing on this. They really will do it. It actually works. And they told us that over and over again. They're like, well, if we keep hearing about it, I mean, we're willing to do something. We just don't know if our district wants it. But I think, and that's a big problem with millennials and younger, is we don't want to pick up the phone and call people.
By the way, None of us want to pick up the phone and call. I don't even know where to find the number. How am I going to figure out who to call?
Yeah, you got to Google where you live and who is my congressman and figure it out and just call, just challenge yourself, like make one phone call this month and just say, hey, all of this stuff that RFK is talking about, it really matters to me. What do you think about it? I'd really like to see you talk about it. Just say that to their people.
Yeah. I think, you know what we should do, guys? We should put the list of Congress people for each, well, it's each district though. It's
I know, it'd be a lot.
It's a lot. All right, just Google it, guys. We're going to leave this right here because I want to come back and talk a little bit deeper in part 2 about what you learned about birth control. I did have Ricky Lake on the show talking about her documentary on birth control. I think it was, well, actually, no, we didn't talk about her documentary. I talked about that personally with her. She showed it to me. It was amazing. I don't know if it came out yet. Have you seen it?
The Business of Birth Control.
Oh, is that what it's called?
Yeah, it's excellent.
Yeah,
it's
amazing.
Excellent.
Okay, so it is out. Okay. I think I saw it like a year ago or something. But I think, what's great about what you guys are doing is you're making people aware of the issue. You're teaching them the ways to empower themselves and do something, whether it's calling your congressman or a congresswoman or congressperson, whatever. I think it's really important to also, I know you guys are rallying, at Kellogg's headquarters and things like that. You guys have been doing things like that so people can sign petitions on Vani Hari's socials and stuff like that. So you guys are teaching people how to actually take action, because everybody I know wants to do something. I know in the Heal Squad, for example, everyone cares about these things, but it's really hard to know what to do, and everyone has such limited time. So you have to be really precise. Like, okay, go to my website, sign this petition. Okay, got it. Or, call this your congressperson and just tell them you want them to start, dealing with this food situation or whatever it is. But in part 2, I want to talk a little bit more about birth control, because I think what you were saying about your journey to it is really scary. And I'm sure there were a lot of other people that got on it. My college roommate put me on it. She's like, you're going to have sex soon. I'm like, no, I'm not. She's like, yeah, you are. You're getting on it. I was like, okay.
That's how it is for most of us.
So,
our friends are on it.
Yeah. And then when I wanted to have a baby, they told me that I couldn't get pregnant. I had no follicles. My system was completely dead. And I think they also weren't educated on kind of the suppression that takes place when you've been on it for so long, and that there's a rejuvenation that needs to happen. And if you're lucky, you'll have it. And clearly for me, it never worked out, other than, I had my baby through surrogate, or surrogacy. So we'll leave this right here for today, friends. I hope you enjoyed this quick down and dirty conversation with Alex on food and pharma and such, but we'll get a little deeper in part 2 tomorrow. So be back with us then. In the meantime, be nice people, make good choices, and be present. Hey, Heal Squad, we have been on quite the journey together, and we're hearing from so many of you just how much this show is helping you heal and get better, and it makes us feel so good. We love, love, love it, and we just ask that you don't keep it to yourself. Spread the message and share the show or your favorite episode with your friends. And if you want to help us even more, you can leave us a 5-star rating and a comment on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and follow us on Instagram at Heal Squad. You can also DM us anytime, because we love connecting with you. And finally, you can also join us on Patreon for our monthly live heal events with world-class healers and ad-free episodes exclusive only to Patreon and our Super Heal Squad for as little as $10 a month. So go to patreon.com/Heal Squad to join. Getting better isn't easy, friends, but as I say all the time, it's a whole lot easier if we can do it together. We love you all so much, and we love doing this thing called life with you.
This podcast and all related content published or distributed by or on behalf of Maria Menounos or MariaMenounos.com is for informational purposes only and may include information that is general in nature and that is not specific to you. Any information or opinions expressed or contained herein are not intended to serve as or replace medical advice, nor to diagnose, prescribe, or treat any disease, condition, illness, or injury, and you should consult the healthcare professional of your choice regarding all matters concerning your health, including before beginning any exercise, weight loss, or healthcare program. If you have or suspect you may have a healthcare emergency, please contact a qualified healthcare professional for treatment. Any information or opinions provided by a guest expert or host featured within website or on company's podcast are their own, not those of Maria Menounos or the company. Accordingly, Maria Menounos and the company cannot be responsible for any results or consequences or actions you may take based on information or opinions.